So Ryan can go ahead and start recording. I'll do a quick introduction. So I'm Robin. I manage the Proof of Concept Grant program here at Techstart. I'm joined today with Hal Wilson, who is partner here at Techstart. And we have Trevor Anderson from Belfast Harbour and Mark Gibson from BT joining us as well. So just a quick rundown of what we're hoping to achieve this morning or this afternoon at this information session. So the plan is we'll start off with a quick intro to Techstart, how we'll do that. And then I'll give a quick introduction to just the proof of concept grants that we run here. I'll then pass over to Trevor, who will talk a wee bit about the opportunity with Belfast Harbour, and then pass over to Mark to talk about the support that BT will be providing with the 75k competition. We'll then go on to talk about the competition process, so just the application process and things. And then finally, we'll go into the Q&A section of this information session. So if you do have any questions, guys, you can go ahead and put them into the Q&A. There's a button just at the bottom of your screen. You should be able to click it and type in any questions that you have. So I'll pass over to Hal then to give a quick introduction to who Techstart are.
Thanks, Robin. Some of you might know this already, but for the benefit of everybody, Techstart is an early stage investor in technology. We invest across both Northern Ireland and Scotland. We have become one of the more active seed investors outside of the southeast of England over the last 4 or 5 years. And in parallel with our seed investment activities, we run in Northern Ireland a proof of concept grant fund, which Robin can take you through the various elements of it now.
Perfect, thanks, Hal. So proof of concept grants, what are they? So these grants are really directed towards exploring the viability and commercial potential of novel and innovative concepts. So they're really there to help you prove your product and prove that there is a market for that product. So we have 3 kinds of grants, which I'm sure a lot of the audience are aware of already. So we have the £10,000 concept grant, which is awarded 4 times a year, and then the 35k concept plus grant, which is awarded 3 times a year. And then once a year, we hope to run these larger grant competitions. So this year, obviously, we are working with Belfast Harbour and BT on this 75k grant competition. And the goal of this competition is really to drive the development of our product towards real requirements, potentially and hopefully stimulating the creation of an exciting new business. So I'll pass over to Trevor then, just to talk a bit about Belfast Harbour.
Well, hi everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Trevor Anderson. I'm the Director of Infrastructure and Business Transformation at the Harbour. Let me say a few words about the Harbour first, in case some of you aren't familiar with the Harbour. The Harbour is about the 10th largest harbour in the UK by trade volume. It's clearly by far the biggest harbour in Northern Ireland and handles about 2/3 of Northern Ireland's trade. But it's actually the largest harbour in the UK by physical size. So it's 2,000 acres of land. It's another 1,000 acres of water. It's got about 8 kilometres of quayside for berthing ships. But it's also like a large town in many respects, with its own road infrastructure, its own electrical infrastructure, its own street lighting and sewage and water infrastructure. So it's got 30 kilometres of roads and all of the street lights and utilities that go along with that. It's also a place where other business happens. So those of you who are remotely familiar with the area will know businesses like George Best City Airport that are within the harbour, the Odyssey, Bombardier, but there are up to 760 odd businesses in the harbour, employing about 27,000 people in the harbour on a daily basis, although the harbour itself only employs about 150 people. It's also a place where there's a lot of leisure activity and a lot of tourist activity. So, you know, Titanic Belfast, but it's also where cruise ships come, where ferry passengers between here and Scotland and here in Liverpool embark and disembark. And that dimension of the harbour as a place where business happens is growing. And the other dimension of the harbour that's significantly growing is residential. At the moment, there's only about 2,000 people live in the harbour, but that will grow considerably over the course of the next 10 years. So all of that really to say that the harbour is like a large town. And some of the conversations that we've had with various partners like BT, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a second, we've talked about how the harbour therefore is a great place to test out and prove and scale technologies. And I think Mark will refer to that in a second or two. So you'll find everything in the harbour that you would find in a town, but because in the harbour it's a private estate, it's a lot easier to get permission to trial new technologies and to experiment with them. For that reason and for other reasons, we've been working closely with BT and some of their other partners on developing a 5G private network and some other technologies that will be important to the expansion of the harbour and the city in the future. But I'll let Mark talk to that. If we could just move on, Robin. So two areas that we want to talk about today in terms of opportunity within the harbour. One is the concept of industrial Internet of Things. And don't think that this slide that I've put up constrains any ideas that you may have. These are some examples only. And it reflects that commentary I made about the nature of the harbour estate and the size of the harbour estate. So in our head, we kind of break down IoT opportunities into kind of three areas. The first area is fairly basic monitoring. The second area is not telemetry, as I've spelt it there, but telemetry. And then the third area is where we're actually actively seeking to control devices. On the monitoring side, I've highlighted two in green there, sewage pumps and electricity. And that's really to say that we're already doing something in that area. That's not to say we're doing everything we'd like to do. But as an example, across the 2,000-acre estate with many, many dozens of sewage pumps, they're really hard to manage and know are they working properly. And sometimes you only find out when you inspect them once a month or when you get your electricity bill in for that sewage pump and you find out that you've used so much electricity because you've been pumping air constantly for weeks. And the pumps then burn out, and each one of those pumps costs about 30,000 to replace. So with a simple IoT sensor that provides us monitoring information as to whether the pump's on or off and what volumes it's pumping, etc., and warns us if it goes outside tolerance, we can provide a much better service to our customers and we can avoid the need to replace expensive pumps. In the telemetry side, we've got lots of complex plants scattered throughout the 2,000-acre estate. Some of those plants have complex computers at their heart, but we have no connectivity back to our central control. So, we don't know how the crane's performing. We don't know what maintenance issues might be developed unless we actually go out and connect into the PLC on the crane. Similarly with our vehicles and our pilot boats. The pilot boats, we have some telemetry on at the moment that tells us how the engine's performing, tells us the speed of the boat, tells us the fuel consumption of the boat, and so on. So that's one area that we've started to do something. And then on the control side, just two examples there that we've been thinking about that we would like to get better management of. We've recently replaced almost all of our street lights with LED lights, which has given us about a 66% saving in energy. But there's another easily 20% saving to be had if we were just more cleverly controlling when those lights are on, when they're off, what the level of illumination is, etc. And then the other point there about smart signage, we've lots of camera technology to help us monitor traffic flows and spot problems. But what we really want to be able to do is be able to communicate out to our commuters and be able to give them valuable information to allow them to plan their journeys and make good decisions. And then along the bottom, I've included this idea of digital twin. We have been working closely with a local knowledge economy SME to develop what we call a digital twin of the harbour. And the reason that's relevant in this area is that many of those IoT initiatives that we have, we feed back into that digital twin. And if you imagine the digital twin as if you like, a Google Earth view of the harbour, that when you drill down into it, you can see various assets and various buildings, etc. But you can also drill down into the data and the status of those assets. So it's a way of bringing lots of IoT information together and visualizing it. And I'm putting it up here not because I'm saying anything you do in this area has to connect to that. I'm just saying there's an opportunity there, and it might be something of interest to consider. If we move on, Robin, onto the next one. The other opportunity that we were keen to explore innovative solutions on is the concept of lone working. And lone working for us occurs for a couple of reasons. One is, we work 24/7 in many of our functions. The harbour never closes. So frequently we have people who are there alone at night, and we need to safeguard their safety. But it's not just out of hours. Within a 2,000-acre estate, you can be a lone worker in broad daylight. You're just separated from your colleagues. We have historically used handheld radios with a man down function, which is typically the radio will beep every set period of time, and you've got to acknowledge it, potentially an issue. We found those to be problematic because many of the roles that our people are doing might be in noisy environments, so they haven't heard the beep, and they've created a lot of false positives. And once you start creating false positives, people then tend to ignore it, and it becomes no longer effective. We've done some brainstorming recently, and we've or people have identified ideas that they would like to see with a lone worker functionality. Could it also provide other detection capability? So, for example, some of the dangerous areas or people might be going into, gas detection might be an issue. Could it be combined with health tech? So, for example, if you take some of the Apple technology in terms of heart rate, etc., is that kind of telemetry, would that provide a better monitoring of the health and safety of a lone worker? Some of their ideas were, what they didn't want to have to rely on doing something that people might forget to do, such as going into an area and then having to actually activate something to provide the function. And at the back of everyone's mind is always the issue of, employees' negative reaction to some of these things, of being tracked all the time, and therefore trying to find a way around it. Again, not putting that up as any way prescriptive, but just putting it up there as thought-provoking. And for successful candidates, we would be making ourselves available and our employees available to discuss some of these ideas and explore with the successful candidate as to what the potential is and what the needs are. So, Robin, that's all I really wanted to cover. I'm sure there may be some questions that we can pick up later.
Perfect, thank you, Trevor. I'll pass over to Mark then to talk about the opportunity with BT. Oh, Mark, you're on mute. There we go.
There we go. Okay, thanks, Robin, and thanks, Trevor, for just explaining the context with the harbour there. Look, thanks everyone for joining this. It's a really exciting opportunity here to really innovate and try some really new ways of innovating and connecting people and place and information and data in the harbour estate. From BT's perspective, what we're very keen to do is provide some support to the winning project in terms of advisory support, but also access to the 5G network that's actually currently available in the harbour. Now, what I'd like to say at the start is that the projects don't have to have a 5G specific element to them. It's going to be there if you want to exploit it and use it. Again, but obviously connectivity could be anything from LoRaWAN, Bluetooth, whatever you feel is the way you want to make your project work, that's fine. But 5G public network is available in areas of the harbour now through EE. We're also working with the harbour on a 5G private network. When that becomes available, again, that could be made available in the port operations areas to actually help people trial their projects and do that if you feel that's part of your project. As part of that, what we'll do, we'll actually provide some 5G devices, possibly Samsung Galaxy S10s or equivalent, and SIMs to allow you to have that connectivity, so you'll not have to worry about the devices and the SIMs to make that happen. We'll make sure you get access to the network, whether it be the public or the private network, and then we'll provide some mentoring and advisory support. So I personally will help out. I'm to introduce myself, which is the Business Development Director for Digital and Smart Places in Northern Ireland. So again, I'll be available to help with some mentoring and support, but also I can make available some of our technical resources in BT around security, around mobility, around architecture, data, those sorts of things, that we can use those and help you with your project if you feel that that's appropriate to do that. The last thing I'm going to mention as well is that, Trevor mentioned about the fact is that there's wider things going on here. So we are in discussion with the harbour and the city around a digital fabric model, which is really looking about how do we connect sensors, connectivity, data from a whole range of sources and share that more easily amongst across organizational boundaries. People tend to work in silos at the moment. So something to keep in mind is that we're looking about how do we reuse sensorization, data, connectivity, share it. So there may be a way of sharing some of that data into your project from other sources, and also sharing what you're doing out into the wider ecosystem within the city. And again, that's coming along in the next wee while. So again, it's just something to keep in mind if you're doing this, about openness, how people might connect or share your services or your data in other ways with other systems, and how we interconnect with those are important. And again, we're looking at the security and the data protection and data trust around those things as well, so we can support and help in terms of what that might be. So that's really just all from me.
Perfect, thank you, Mark. Just quickly then, before we go on to the Q&A portion, I'll just talk through the application process for this competition. So the first step then is to get your application form in. So you can access the application form on our website. It's just techstartgrants.com. And the closing date to get that in is the 20th of October at 5 p.m. So once you get your application form in, then it'll go through an eligibility check. And during that check, we're just making sure that you're registered and resident in Northern Ireland, and you're kind of suited to the competition. So you can have a read at our FAQs on our website to see what we're kind of looking for eligibility wise. If you pass through the eligibility check, then you'll be invited for a pitch. So obviously, due to current circumstances, the pitches will probably be virtual, so probably a Zoom meeting. So you'll pitch your idea. We'll then shortlist those applicants, and those shortlisted applicants will come through to a mentoring session. So that'll be a one-to-one meeting with the Harbour, BT and Techstart to kind of discuss your idea and kind of refine your proposition before your final pitch. And then you'll do your final pitch and we'll make the award. So some timings around this. So all of these kind of final dates are to be confirmed, just depending on how many applications we get and things. But as I said, the closing date will be the 20th of October at 5 p.m. The first pitch then will be start of November time with the one-to-one sessions that week commencing the 23rd of November. Final pitch that last week of November with awards, hopefully then that first week in December. So again, as we go through the process, those dates will be firmed up and announced. So we'll move on to the Q&A section. Just before I stop sharing my screen, these are some key things you might want to note down. So techstartgrants.com is where you can get the application form. If you have any questions or queries that don't get answered in this session, please email grants@techstart.vc. We can help you out. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you up to date with all the closing dates for the grants and things. And then finally, we do also have an open office every Wednesday afternoon, which you can get in our Calendly if you would like to have a quick chat as well about any issues you might have. So I'll stop sharing my screen now, so hopefully I can see the Q&A. Perfect. Well, I'm just having a quick, so there's a few that have come through. Starting off here with the first one from Brendan Digney. Does the Harbour have specific areas where lone working is an issue, i.e. quayside? Trevor, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, no problem. Hi, Brendan. There are some specific areas where lone working is an issue, but it's also true to say that almost throughout that 2,000-acre estate, there are issues with lone working. So let me explain that. We have two areas in particular that are manned 24/7 with a single employee. One is vessel traffic control services, which is a bit like air traffic control, but for boats. And those people are stuck in a tower on their own 24/7. And so therefore lone working is an issue there. That one we manage today with a version of the kind of man down button, where they have a button on their desk and every now and again it beeps and they have to hit it to say that they're still upright. That works better in that environment than it does in the external environment. But you know, it's not a perfect system. Same issue where we have our police control room, where we have staff, again, a lone worker monitoring radios, monitoring telephones, monitoring CCTV and the artificial intelligence that sits on top of our CCTV. So the same challenge. So there are those kind of specific areas where there are lone working challenges. But right throughout the 2,000-acre estate, whether it's you're a police officer on beat patrol and you're a lone worker, or you're a maintenance technician, either maintaining road infrastructure or street lamps or cranes or ferry ramps, you could be a lone worker. So in that sense, there are lone worker issues throughout the 2,000-acre estates, but there are some specific functions like maintenance and policing and vessel traffic control and control room operators that are very specific to lone working.
Perfect. Thank you, Trevor. Another question that has come through a couple of times is, if you have a solution that can meet both some elements of industrial IoT and lone worker, do you have to submit 2 applications? So that was from Peter McCall. So if you have a solution that hits both, you don't need to submit 2 applications, you just submit 1 application, kind of explaining how it hits both. So that was from Peter. Just looking through the other ones here. Hi, please could you explain what level of readiness do you expect from the application? So with proof of concept grants, obviously it's in the name, it's proving a concept, so it is very early stage ideas. With the 75K, obviously we do expect to see a level of sort of maturity with the company. You know, maybe you've done a wee bit of work already, and this 75K will really help accelerate it to a point where it's ready to go live. So very early stage, but maybe not as early stage as our other grants, you know, such as the 10K grant, which was, you know, just idea stage. I think at 75K level, we would be looking for an idea that has had a bit of work done on it already and a bit of a team around it, ideally, not necessarily, but you know, it is going to be a competitive process. So those ideas that can articulate a good understanding of work will need to be done. You know, kind of what work's been done to date and everything. So you can have a read on our FAQs as well. It kind of explains the difference between the smaller grants and the larger grants and kind of what we're looking for at that stage. Having a look through other ones that have come through. So there's a question here, how many grants will be awarded? So for this 75k grant competition, we are hoping to only award just one successful application. Another question here, does the port run an operations control room / monitoring center, and if so, where is it?
So I guess I probably touched on that in the earlier answer. So the both the control room, police control room operations, and the vessel traffic services are both in the port operations center, which is in an area of the port called Milewater. But to orientate you, if you know the area, if you stood with your back to Titanic Belfast and looked across the lagoon, on the other side of the water would be that control building.
Perfect. Another question that has come through then, does an idea have to hit lone worker and industrial IoT requirements, or can it be a specific use case? So for this competition, I think we are really looking for something that is industrial IoT or lone worker. I think that's quite a broad spectrum of potential ideas. So I suppose it's kind of how you word it as well. So this competition is lone worker and industrial IoT focused. There's no more questions come through there. If there is anybody in the audience that has some more questions, please get them in now. Again, if you do have questions that pop into your head after this session, please feel free to drop us an email at grants@techstart.vc and we can help.
Robin, there's a question in the chat there, just asking how long you expect the POC to run.
Yeah, so obviously 75k is quite a big chunk of money, so we'll take the lead from the successful applicant on how long they think it's going to take to spend the money and get through the grant. Most POC grants can take anywhere from 6 months to a year, but again, it really just depends on the project and the company and what they're hoping to achieve. So we can be quite flexible with how long, but it's usually somewhere between 6 months and a year. Perfect. Oh, I can see a few more come through here. Are details available, are current data streams collected that could be integrated into the solutions, e.g. local environment info? Maybe that's one for Trevor or Mark, current data that's available. Yeah,
I mean, there are various data streams that could be integrated. So I've talked about our CCTV. We also have various environmental monitors and electricity monitors. So there are some data streams available, and for the successful project, we can explore that, or through submitted questions through yourself, Robin, we can provide more specific answers to help guide people. Okay. So is none of that is open data at the minute that you can just access freely as a person? It's something that they will. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Trevor. Another question here. The port has various partners whom it works with other technology providers, etc. During the course of the POC, can the port facilitate access to them? Yeah, certainly. As Mark has already said, our main technology partner at the moment is with BT, and BT are already prepared to mentor and provide support to this process. But we do have other technology partners, such as our CCTV provider, and we would certainly be happy to facilitate access to them. Okay. Another question that's come through then is, what does success look like? So for the Harbour, what does success look like in terms of this competition for you? Well, that's an interesting question. I think it's success looks like an innovative solution that addresses the particular problems that that it seeks to address. So we've given a broad range of possibilities, and within that, I guess a bid will identify a pitch, and so for that particular pitch, you know, let's say let me take my sewage pumping station example. To be successful on a pitch on something like the sewage pumping station, you need to understand, well, what's the problem you're trying to sort out? And then you need to have an effective, innovative solution to say, this is how that problem statement will get resolved. From my perspective, that's what success would look like. But, you know, the spectrum of potential projects there is immense.
Yeah, I would say, sorry, Mark, did you have something to add to that?
No, other than I was going to say that obviously one of the things for running this is to try and really explore and get something that's usable and adds value to in a wider scale or part of an ecosystem. So again, it's that sort of it's not just for the sake of doing something, it's actually trying to get to something. We have something that's actually usable, fits a niche or an area that we need to solve and sort of problem out, and can be scaled and repeated out reasonably quickly. So again, it's that, you know, proving the value is very important in the process.
Yeah, no, and I would say from Techstart's point of view, you know, we're the same. We want these larger grant competitions to really, you know, stimulate the creation of a new and exciting idea and business. So another question that has come through here is there a post-POC roadmap? So kind of once this project is completed. So from Techstart's point of view, obviously we're always here to help post-POC with you know, introductions to the investment team and all that good stuff. But from the Harbour and BT's point of view, you know, what do you hope to see after they complete the project?
I think it's difficult to answer that, Robin, because it depends what it is. So, you know, clearly from our perspective, if there was a successful project, you would then like to see it implemented and rolled out. But as Mark says, you know, you would also like to see it scaled and applied more broadly than just the harbour.
Perfect. Just having a look to see if there's any more come through.
If I can just add to that one very quickly as well, Robin, I think for BT, you know, we are an aggregator. We work with SMEs and small companies. You know, we are into R&D, and again, you know, if this is a success, we'd be keen to see how BT could use such a solution across our user base across the UK and wider. And also I mentioned about the digital fabric. Obviously, we're really keen to look at service offerings that might be offered within that. So again, there's an opportunity to explore that as a way of helping people on the next step of the journey.
I think that's, yeah, I think that's a great point, and it picks up another question that I see flashing up on the screen, which is, you know, are we open to proposals further down the line and possibly outside the timeline of the contest? The digital fabric that Mark talked to earlier seeks to provide an innovation space, and within that innovation space, we'll be seeking to run hackathons and engage with local knowledge companies, etc. So, you know, even beyond the Techstart sort of funding opportunity here, there will be the opportunity to engage with knowledge company SMEs, you know, further down the line. The difference between that and this one is this has funding attached to it.
Perfect. So there's a question here. Are there any competitive / business infringements that might play when submitting applications? So I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, Chris, but I suppose when you're submitting your application form, if there are any competitive or business infringements that you're worried about, there is a section there where it says potential conflicts of interest. So you can include it there in your application form, and we kind of can go and review that when your application form comes through. And then another question that's come through is, whilst I understand the POC project is looking to stimulate / develop innovative solutions, what if there are already commercially available solutions that could address many, if not all, of these requirements? And I suppose the answer to that question is, you know, the whole point of this competition is to try new things and to prove new concepts and really test something that hasn't been done before. So hopefully it can be better than some of the commercially available things that are there already. That's kind of what proof of concept grants are there to do. Question here about IP. So where does the ownership of any resulting IP rest post the project? So it would be my understanding that the IP would be completely with the company, the Harbour, BT, and certainly Techstart do not own any of the IP involved with the project.
True.
Another question, does it have to run on the BT network or use their technology?
Yeah, I think that one's for me. No, and the answer is no. I think we were looking for the most innovative use of whatever connectivity or technologies you want to use. There is a great opportunity, obviously, though, with 5G and to showcase what 5G can do. So if that's something that fits with what you're doing, absolutely, the opportunity is there to use that. But the answer is no, it's not totally reliant on that.
Perfect. So there's no more questions submitted that I can see. So perfect. I think we can probably wrap it up there if there's no more questions. Any other final words, guys?
I see there's one question has popped in, Robin.
So Paul, is this how the grant is distributed? Yep. So how it works, if you were to be successful, is we would kind of get you in, talk about how you're planning on spending the grant, you know, approve your suppliers and your timeframes, and what you would do is submit claims. So you can submit various claims, you know, multiple of smaller amounts, or you can draw down bigger chunks. So it's kind of distributed over kind of what your cash flow looks like and kind of your timings with the project. Hopefully that answers the question. Perfect. Okay. If there's no more questions, then hopefully there's not another one that jumps up. But again, if there is anything that comes into your head while you're filling out the application form, or while you're reading up more about the grants, do reach out to the grants@techstart.vc email, and we can be here to answer any questions. Perfect. Anything else, guys? No. Well, thank you to everyone who attended today. Hopefully we'll get some good companies applying soon. One last question, so just see, oh, thank you. Great. Thank you, Trevor and Mark, for taking the time to do this as well this afternoon.
No, my pleasure, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. And good luck.
Yeah, good luck. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.